There's a family you've never heard of that makes the Sacklers look small by comparison. They didn't just profit from addiction, they industrialized it and turned an entire nation into customers. The Sacklers, behind OxyContin, helped fuel an epidemic, made roughly $20 billion, and devastated communities. But a century earlier, another dynasty ran the same model across Asia on a scale many times larger. They reshaped the economies of India and China, then received knighthoods, statues, and honors instead of prison. That's how drug empires work. Make money from suffering, launder it through charity, become too respectable to challenge. This is happening to your medicine cabinet right now. Same playbook, different labels. This is the story of the Cissoon family, the cartel that turned the British Empire into history's first narco-state. We start in 1832. A Jewish merchant family flees Baghdad, escaping a governor's extortion and threats. Patriarch David Sissoon leads them through Iran, scanning trade routes and political climates for a safer base. He fixes on British India, especially Bombay, a rapidly growing colonial port overflowing with cotton and silver. Bombay is also a headquarters of the British East India Company, a corporation that functions like a state. The company fields private armies, runs courts, collects taxes, and rules huge territories purely for shareholder profit. By the 1830s, it has conquered or annexed much of India, turning entire regions into revenue machines. Its most profitable export is opium grown in India and sold in China under tightly controlled monopoly systems. David arrives in Bombay with modest capital, but three crucial advantages: deep connections, political knowledge, and immaculate timing. His father, once chief treasurer in Baghdad, built a far-reaching network of trusted merchants across the Middle East. In a world with weak contract enforcement, these kinship and religious ties are worth more than any single shipment. David also understands how courts, governors, and tax officials think, and how to become indispensable to their plans. And he lands in Bombay just as Britain is panicking about trade with China. Britain craves Chinese tea, silk, and porcelain. Tea especially has become a daily necessity from mansions to cottages. China wants almost nothing Britain produces and insists on payment in silver bullion. Every year, millions of pounds of silver flow east. Some estimates put the drain near 8 million annually. Diplomats pitch manufactured goods, negotiate, write elaborate letters. Chinese officials decline, seeing Britain as a minor tributary. London fears the silver outflow could destabilize its entire monetary system, undermining credit and imperial finance. So planners embrace a harsh solution: expand opium cultivation in India and sell it widely inside China. Indian farmers are steered into poppy contracts. The company buys, processes, and packs the product into standard chests. Chinese buyers pay silver for opium. That same silver then pays for tea, silk, and porcelain exports. On paper, the trade deficit disappears. In reality, Britain has engineered a massive drug epidemic for profit. By 1830, British India produces over 1,500 tons annually, and opium already accounts for a large share of colonial revenue. Roughly 1 in every 7 rupees flowing into the colonial government now comes from opium-derived income. Roads, schools, army salaries, and bureaucracy across British India are funded in part by this single commodity. This isn't underground crime. It is official policy, and it's the system David Sissoon steps into. Most merchants buy chests at auction and resell them in Chinese ports for a modest markup. David thinks bigger. If you want real power, you don't join the system, you help run it. He finances cultivation, extending credit so farmers prioritize poppies over subsistence crops, tying them to his firm. He builds warehouses near major ports, controlling storage, quality, and the timing of shipments. He acquires or charters ships, gradually assembling his own fleet so transport stays under family control. He arranges insurance through his own channels, keeping fees and risk management inside the Cissoon network. He posts trusted agents from Kolkata to Canton, fluent in local languages and skilled at navigating colonial regulations. Most importantly, he becomes the British administration's favorite collaborator, always ready with capital, ships, and information. Officials gain efficient private partners and political cover. The Cissoon gain legal protection and privileged access to auctions. By the mid-1830s, Cissoon and Company is shipping tens of thousands of opium chests into China every year. By the late 1850s, that figure approaches 59,000 chests annually, over 7 million pounds of refined narcotics. Chinese coastal cities see widespread opium use, weakened labor, family breakdown, and a relentless outflow of silver. Chinese officials watch their treasury shrink, while British banks and Sissoon ledgers swell with returning bullion. In 1839, Imperial Commissioner Lin Zexu is appointed to stop the trade. He seizes and destroys huge opium stockpiles. His actions and a moral letter to Queen Victoria provoke the First Opium War, which China loses to superior Western technology. The Treaty of Nanking in 1842 forces China to pay indemnities, open treaty ports, and cede Hong Kong. Opium isn't named explicitly, but new trading rights make enforcement almost impossible. Imports surge even higher. Continued attempts to regulate foreign merchants lead to a second conflict and another unequal treaty later in the century. This time, opium is explicitly legalized. removing the last legal uncertainty around the Sissoon family's core business. By mid-century, the Sissoon run one of the largest private merchant empires in Asia. They still dominate opium, but now also trade cotton, tea, and silk, and operate banks, ships, and warehouses. Crucially, they begin reinvesting profits into railways, telegraph lines, and urban real estate from Bombay to Shanghai. Drug money becomes tracks, cables, and office blocks. Ordinary infrastructure nobody thinks to question. At the same time, David Sissoon builds a second reputation, philanthropist and civic benefactor. He funds synagogues, schools, hospitals, libraries, and docks throughout Bombay, visibly reshaping the city. In 1847, he finances the David Sissoon Library and Reading Room, a landmark that still stands today. He later helps fund Sissoon Dock, which becomes one of Bombay's most important commercial harbors. Local residents see his name on libraries and hospitals and think of generosity, not of opium shipments. British officials share that view and reward him accordingly. David is appointed Sheriff of Bombay, a ceremonial role that still signals deep integration into the colonial elite. His son Abdullah, Albert, earns knighthood in the Order of the Star of India and unprecedented civic honors in London. At one point, the Sissoon are considered more publicly honored in Britain than even the famous Rothschild family. This is how respectability is manufactured. Plaster your name on buildings until people forget how you paid for them. By the early 20th century, global attitudes and regulations around opiates begin to shift, squeezing the old trade. The Sissoon pivot further into textiles, shipping, and especially urban real estate, particularly in Shanghai. Victor Sissoon becomes a major property magnate there, owning hotels, offices, and prime commercial land. In 1949, the new Chinese government nationalizes foreign assets, wiping out Victor's holdings overnight with no compensation. Meanwhile, in Britain, the original family firm declines. By 1939, Sissoon heirs have left management entirely. By the 1980s, regulators judge remaining partners unfit directors, and the once dominant company ends in bureaucratic disgrace. Drug empires, however, rarely end with jail. They end with decayed companies and descendants living on cleaned wealth. The Sackler family followed a similar arc with OxyContin: massive sales, widespread dependence, and eventually high-profile lawsuits. Their company, Purdue Pharma, declared bankruptcy and paid billions in settlements, but most family wealth remained intact. Other pharmaceutical giants and distributors also profited from overprescribed opioids, paying fines while continuing business as usual. Modern medicine often relies on treatments that manage chronic conditions for decades, creating permanent streams of paying customers. The exact same pattern is playing out today. Dependency as a business model, philanthropy as public relations. Respectable institutions, wings of hospitals, university buildings, museums, are frequently financed with money earned from human suffering. History shows the cycle. Industrialize addiction, fund monuments, let time polish the legacy, and hope nobody follows the money.